Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. We sift through some really fascinating material here.
We certainly do, trying to find those insights you might not get elsewhere.
Exactly. And today, we're plunging into something many people turn to, often when they're feeling vulnerable, looking for relief from pain or suffering.
And that is hypnotherapy.
Right, hypnotherapy. On the surface, it often looks like a pretty straightforward way to, ease immediate distress, maybe even a quick fix.
That's the perception, often.
But our mission, as always on this deep dive, is to look beyond that surface. Okay, so hypnotherapy might offer some temporary relief. But what are the full implications? The consequences? Especially the ones we might not see right away. We're digging into this using a really unique perspective from our source material today.
Yeah, it's quite distinct.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Well, right off the bat, our source kind of throws a curveball at how we usually look at treatments.
So?
It argues that we tend to get fixated on, purely material results. Did it work? Did it fail? Simple as that sometimes.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
But the source says, look, for humans described here as spiritual entities, a really complete picture has to include the spiritual side of things.
Spiritual aspects and implications.
Exactly. And the source warns pretty strongly, actually, that just not knowing about those spiritual consequences, that offers zero protection.
Wow, okay. So ignorance isn't bliss here.
Not according to this view. It's a direct challenge to our modern, often very physical way of thinking about health and healing.
And to really drive that point home, the source uses this really striking analogy. It's quite chilling, actually.
You're talking about the Radium Girls.
Yes, the Radium Girls. Picture this. Young women, factory workers, early 20th century, painting watch dials so they glow in the dark.
Luminous dials, yeah.
And to get a really fine point on their brushes, they'd lick the tips constantly.
Oh, man, ingesting radium bit by bit.
Exactly. And at the time, nobody was thinking about that. The focus was all on the amazing benefit, watches that glowed. Huge for the military at night,
A technological marvel, celebrated.
Absolutely. But the hidden costs, devastating. Radiation poisoning, bones fracturing, horrible cancers.
And deaths, just awful.
Yeah. The dangers were completely invisible, hidden until it was way too late for so many of them. It's just a tragic story, really, of progress having these unforeseen costs.
And this story, this tragedy, it leads our source to pose this really important question, maybe a bit unsettling.
Which is?
Is it really so illogical to think that maybe with hypnotherapy, we modern humans are using radiations, or let's say forces whose full nature, whose full effects, we just don't know yet?
Drawing a parallel between radium's invisible material properties and potentially invisible non-material forces in hypnosis.
That's the idea. The Radium Girls example, the source says, highlights two key things. First, our tendency as humans to jump on things for the quick, obvious benefit.
Like glowing watches.
Without really thinking through the deeper potential side effects. And second, radium gave us concrete proof of invisible material properties that were unknown until discovered.
Right, their danger only became clear after people used it recklessly.
Exactly. So it makes you ask, what else might be invisible? Are there non-material forces at play here with hypnotherapy that we're similarly unaware of?
That's a powerful parallel. Really makes you stop and think. And it also brings up how we name things, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, the source points out that before we settled on the sort of innocuous term hypnosis, the whole thing was called animal magnetism.
Ah, yes, mesmer.
Just think about that phrase, animal magnetism. Doesn't that feel different? Heavier, maybe?
Yeah.
Compared to the clinical-sounding hypnosis.
Oh, absolutely. That original term carried a very different weight, a different set of implications.
So what happened there? How did we get from one to the other?
Well, that shift in wording isn't just about words. It signals a huge reinterpretation, which our source sees as really significant. We need to go back a bit to the 18th century.
Okay.
To Franz Mesmer, often called the father of hypnotism, lived 1734 to 1815. He was a physician, and he came up with this, pretty radical idea for his time. He theorized about this invisible natural force. He called it a magnetic fluid. And he believed it flowed through all living things, people, animals, even plants.
Okay, animal magnetism, hence the name.
Exactly. And he thought that diseases were basically caused by blockages or imbalances in this fluid.
Right.
And that certain people, the magnetizers, could actually manipulate this fluid in others to, restore health. The patients were said to be mesmerized.
So the magnetizer was actively directing some kind of external force.
That was the theory. Imagine the scene. People gathered around these tubs, holding hands, Mesmer maybe doing passes with his hands or a wand. directing this invisible fluid. It was quite dramatic.
Sounds like it. So this powerful, almost mystical idea of an external magnetic force. But you said the term didn't stick. Why not?
Well, as science started to really take hold in Western Europe, the medical establishment got pretty skeptical. They wanted proof.
Measurable physical evidence of this magnetic fluid.
Exactly. And Mesmer and his followers, the magnetizers, they struggled to provide that kind of solid scientific proof.
Okay.
So Mesmer's protégés, they wanted to keep the practice going, but they needed to distance it from what seemed like a cult influence. That term was pretty loaded back then.
So they needed a rebrand, essentially.
Pretty much. They came up with hypnotism and a whole new theory to go with it.
Which was?
They basically flipped the script. They argued the changes seen in patients weren't from some external fluid, but from a peculiar condition of the nervous system within the person.
Ah, so the effect lies inside the subject.
Yes. Working purely by the power of suggestion. It moved from an external force being manipulated to an internal psychological process.
Okay, I think I follow. They made it sound more scientific, more internal, less mystical. But our source sees a problem with this shift, right? What's the big deal, according to them?
That's the crux of it. The source argues this wasn't just finding a better name, it was a kind of conceptual sidestep, a shortcut. This new theory, yeah, it was scientifically acceptable, it let practitioners keep working, but the source argues it completely eliminated the notion of any non-material influence in the process.
Okay.
Which automatically excluded any consideration of the impact or exposure to the unseen forces potentially still at play.
Ah, so just because they stopped talking about an external force doesn't mean it wasn't still involved.
That's exactly the source's point. It argues practitioners are still interacting with the same forces they can't see. Just calling it suggestion or psychology doesn't negate the impact of whatever forces are being used. So the source presents this history to show how focusing only on the material side, the visible stuff, can lead even well-meaning doctors or therapists to potentially expose themselves and their patients to, well, unseen radiations and forces that could be harmful, maybe even devastating, with far-reaching consequences.
Like a kind of willful blindness, maybe? Or just a blind spot created by wanting scientific acceptance?
Perhaps. It suggests we might have thrown the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, by dismissing the non-material possibilities too quickly.
That's really thought-provoking. We go from acknowledging invisible forces to focusing purely on internal suggestion, but maybe the forces are still there.
Right.
Which leads to another key point from the source. It says, since hypnosis works at the psychic level of man's being, it's kind of illogical not to expect the benefits and the side effects to also show up, first and foremost, in the psyche.
Exactly. But then it adds, this psychic level is something of which we know so little.
When the source says psychic level, what exactly are we talking about? Is it just thoughts and feelings?
It seems to mean something deeper than that, more like the non-physical core of who we are, our spirit, our inner self, our consciousness, separate from the body, or just everyday mental chatter.
Okay, like our fundamental energetic being.
That's a good way to think about it. And because hypnosis, in this view, operates at that level, the consequences, good or bad, are going to hit that core level too, not just superficially.
Which leads to the source's big concern.
Yeah, the really serious concern. Yet here we are fully conducting mass applications without having a real idea of the full extent of the consequences involved. It suggests we're playing with something profound without fully understanding it.
This is where things take a really deep, maybe unexpected turn. The source doesn't just hint at subtle risks. It brings in a perspective that views hypnosis not just as potentially risky, but as a kind of spiritual violation.
Right, and for this, it draws on some powerful stuff. Excerpts from a lecture called The Crime of Hypnotism.
It's from the book In the Light of Truth, The Grail Message, by someone named Abrushin. We should be clear, we're exploring this specific source's view here, which is a very strong spiritual warning.
Absolutely. And Abrushin is very direct. He states quite bluntly, when a person employs hypnotism, he binds the spirit of the one hypnotized. This binding is in itself a spiritual transgression or crime.
Binds the spirit. That sounds intense.
It is. And the source clarifies, using hypnosis even for good reasons, like healing the body or helping someone psychologically, does not excuse it.
Wow. So even if it's used to help someone feel better?
That argument is dismissed as self-deception.
Why?
Because, Abrushin argues, Only what a human spirit undertakes with a perfectly free and uninfluenced volition can bring it that benefit which it needs for its real ascent.
Okay, unpack that a little. Real ascent.
It means genuine, lasting spiritual growth and development. The Source insists that for that to happen, our choices, our actions have to come from a place of absolute inner freedom. No outside will influencing us.
So any benefit gained through hypnosis is seen as, what, artificial? Temporary?
Extraneous is the word used, capable only of bringing about a temporary and apparent benefit, like putting on a costume. It changes the appearance, but not the person underneath. It doesn't foster real internal growth.
So the concern isn't just about short-term side effects, but about hindering long-term spiritual development and the autonomy of our own spirit.
Exactly. And it raises the question, what are the dangers of this bound spirit? What does that mean in practice?
Yeah, if we can't see it, what does it look like?
Well, it's described as more than just feeling mentally blocked. It's like the core of your being, your spirit, gets energetically tied or somewhat subjected to the hypnotist's influence.
Okay.
And this, Abdrution claims, creates an absolute check on the possibility of the necessary progress the spirit needs to make. It halts its natural evolution, its ascent.
Like putting a roadblock on its path.
Sort of. Imagine your spirit usually has this natural shield of free will. Hypnosis, in this view, weakens or compromises that shield.
Making it vulnerable.
Yes, it becomes defenselessly exposed to other ethereal influences, even if the hypnotist means well. It lacks the sorely needed protection which only freedom of movement can offer.
Ethereal influences. What are those, according to the Source?
Subtle, non-physical forces or energies. They operate in what the Source calls the ethereal world, a kind of non-physical reality that overlaps with ours. Think of it like leaving a gate open to unseen elements when your defenses are down. And the Source really emphasizes, just because men notice nothing of these perpetual conflicts, this does not exclude the activity in the ethereal world. We might be unaware, but these interactions are happening.
That's a lot to take in. It definitely adds layers of complexity to something many see as pretty harmless.
It does.
And it puts caregivers, therapists, doctors in a tough spot, doesn't it? I mean, it's understandable why they might suggest hypnotherapy.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if the alternative is medication with potentially nasty side effects like drowsiness or worse. People are often desperate for relief.
They're looking for the least harmful path, the most gentle option available.
Of course. And the Source acknowledges that desperation. But it circles back to its core premise.
Which is?
If all suffering ultimately has spiritual basis, a root cause connected to our inner being, our spirit's journey,
then the real lasting solution must also be spiritual.
That's the argument. And this connects to what the Source calls recognition of the Creator. It suggests a belief that, the Lord in his infinite love and mercy must also have provisions for helping those who are suffering.
Okay, so help is available.
Yes. But, crucially, the Source says it's not just handed out automatically. Each person has to secure their own mercy by themselves.
How do you do that?
By opening themselves to it. And the gateway, it explains, involves genuine belief in the Creator, then humble trust and total submission to the laws that manifest the will of the Creator.
So it's about actively engaging, not passive acceptance, but aligning yourself with divine laws.
Exactly. It's a path of conscious effort. And the promise here is that through genuine and sustained efforts to change oneself, plus humble, heartfelt prayers,
Yes.
the person will open up channels to help that will at times appear miraculous. It's really a call for individual spiritual responsibility and connection as the true path to healing.
Wow. We've definitely gone way beyond the surface today. From hypnosis as a potential quick fix, through its history, animal magnetism, the shift to suggestion.
Right, that whole evolution.
And then landing on these really profound spiritual implications from our Source, Abdrution's view on binding the spirit. It's a completely different lens.
It really is, moving from just the visible effects to thinking about unseen forces and potentially huge consequences at our deepest level.
Hopefully exploring this illumination helps anyone listening to weigh things up. The immediate benefits versus these potential spiritual consequences.
Especially now, people are feeling more pressure, more pain, and might be tempted to seek help from anywhere, any avenue.
Making these kinds of distinctions really critical. It's about deciding what kind of well-being you're truly seeking. Material, spiritual.
Oh, a vital consideration.
Absolutely. So as you, our listeners, think about this deep dive, here's something to ponder. In our constant search for relief, for solutions? Are we always fully aware of the unseen forces possibly at play? And what does it genuinely mean to heal or progress with what the Source called perfectly free and uninfluenced volition? Something to really mull over.
Definitely food for thought.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.